the time and energy it takes to run real estate, whether you're doing a 200 unit deal or a 1 unit deal, is really not that dissimilar. Everybody markets it as a passive income business. Like, that's the biggest crock.
Was that the hardest deal you ever worked for?
No, it's easy compared to what we do today. If anybody can do it, there's rarely value.
Can you expand upon that? Welcome back to another episode of the Roots Podcast. I'm Tyler Lingle, joined by my co-host, Max Moore. Today we have Tad Miller on the show.
Tad is a co-founder and CEO of Milhaus, a $5 billion plus real estate firm reshaping urban neighborhoods. He's recognized as one of Indiana's top business leaders and named ULI's 40 Under 40. With deep expertise in infill, mixed use, and opportunity zone projects, Tad has played a huge role in driving growth and revitalization in cities like Indy. We met Tad through Tyler's dad at a high school hustle event, Milhaus HQ, and his storytelling, we were just like, we got to get this guy on the podcast somehow. So had to call in a favor to Mr. Scott. Shout out, Scott.
Scott got it done.
We got Tad in the room, so welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
We like to start every episode with kind of a similar question, which is, if you had $50,000 and you were starting over in Indianapolis, what would you do with that money?
I mean, of course, it's very personal to what you're trying to accomplish. I think if I was trying to kind of build a platform like what we've done at Milhaus, I would go get a really good job at, one of the strongest real estate companies I could get to take me. And I'd use that $50,000 to support my lifestyle, even if I didn't have to take income. Mm-hmm. Or if I could get the job with income, I'd probably use that capital to, go really get the best, education I could in addition to the job I had, whether it be at IU Real Estate or IU Law or whatever else. I think that would be how I would spend that money.
Mm. Using it to pay for your lifestyle expenses while you build sweat equity. Essentially an experience. Yeah. I think so many people try to do it themselves and buy a business by something that's too small to really learn on. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the real experience is actually being where the real action's happening, not trying to make it up on your own. So get in those rooms where those discussions are happening. Yeah, be in the room where it happens, right? I mean, that's kind of like where the real value is created. Nobody does anything by themselves, and you can't teach yourself what you learn in those rooms. Mm-hmm. So you'd be better off taking a negative cash flow and working for, whether it's a Kiter assignment or a Buckingham or a Milhaus or a, whatever the right kind of sophisticated real estate group is. I guarantee you your long-term value will be much greater than going out and trying to start from nothing yourself with that kind of money. The biggest thing I think I took away from your chat to high school hustle was single family investing and what you're doing. They're completely different skill sets. And if you think it's a linear and you're going to stair step, you're not. It's right. You might as well just sell them all and restart and go work for a developer. That's what I had to do. Right. I mean, that's what I did. I started as a single family guy and finally was able to convince, to kind of get in the room where it happens with another group and started realizing how it really worked. And I didn't take a loss, but I definitely liquidated at a profit that wouldn't have made sense in any general situation, because I realized that the whatever 50 plus units that I had bought on that basis was just an anchor to my future success. So I really had to, I took losses on a couple of houses just to get rid of them, even though if I would have taken time and waited, I would have made some money. I, undercut pricing of what I could have made on those houses. Man, that was by far the best decision I ever made. Because, the time and energy it takes to run real estate, whether you're doing a 200 unit deal or a 1 unit deal, is really not that dissimilar. In fact, I would say you can spend less time on a 200 unit deal as an individual than you can on a single unit deal, because you can actually afford the team and the staff that it takes to do a lot of the work. Right. Whereas Leverage. You just lie to yourself about how much time you're spending on it, and you don't charge yourself at an appropriate rate. Story. Yeah. He's whining every day about a tenant he has to evict or
it's not the tenant piece. It's the fact that I bought a franchise GNC at 20 years old and thought that I was doing something great and just got into the operations of it. And when I was working for somebody else, it was easy. His balance sheet was not as good as it looked, right?
Right.
So you learn that and you take L's, but
yeah,
it's the cost of education and the experience.
Yeah.
If you had one free billboard in Indy for a week, what would it say?
Be nice.
Love it. Be nice.
Any rationale? Like why?
Because nobody is anymore. It's just, I don't really understand kind of why.
Especially online.
Yeah, especially online, but even it bleeds from online to kind of personal lives and professional lives and everything else. And it's just amazing how much time I spend just trying to get people to be nice to each other. I feel like that's almost more of a job than like, the productive stuff. But
I feel like if you're passing that on the interstate and you read it, it's like a good reminder to go into the next conversation.
Yeah, I would hope people at least smile.
Yeah. The last guest said a like laughing emoji was his.
Yeah.
So we've got two positives.
He was saying it sarcastically, like this is just so effed up. The world, laughing emoji.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, he said that because of wholesaler deals, like them covering up. They'll say like $20,000 will flip this house. And it's like a gut job.
Right.
And he just comments laughing emoji on all these Facebook posts.
Right. Yeah.
So that's his thing.
Yeah.
Third kind of starter question. If you could describe Indy in one word, what would it be?
I should probably have a much faster, better answer than this, but I mean, stable. I mean, it's been a market that's been great to us, been ups and downs. Whereas some of the other, especially kind of southeast coastal markets are very much a roller coaster, both from a personal life and from a professional life. It's just, there are certain places that are great to visit, and there's other great places that are great to like have a foundation. And for me, like Indiana is such a strong foundation for both my personal life and for our business that, we definitely vacation and play and actually like work and invest in a lot of different markets from California to DC and like in some of the businesses, even in Canada and Mexico. Every city and every state has a great story and has great things good for it and bad for it. And I just feel like Indiana is such a strong foundation, such a great place to, start a business, grow a family, kind of get the best of all worlds, but you're only a couple hours from New York, and if you want to go and
it's like top 10 income to price ratio for like cost of living, housing versus income. It's right up there with Arkansas, but who wants to live in Arkansas? No offense.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a great story as well.
No, it's beautiful.
But yeah, it's a great foundation.
Stable seems appropriate.
Yeah.
I think when you talk like any type of recession sense and the way that we've not been gotten steamrolled.
Right.
It's kind of like we just stay.
Yeah.
We stay steady. Steady to the right, up.
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah. Much more consistent.
Yeah. You shared a story when we were there at Milhaus HQ for High School Hustle, of your High School Hustle. Can you take us through a little bit of that?
I mean, I had probably several things that are considered high school hustle, but the big one that really kind of transformed everything was I was working for a couple of great guys who were running a construction company all through central Indiana, and they, for some reason, decided to split up and kind of left a bunch of unfinished, jobs and whatnot. One of them moved to Texas. Another one kind of moved a county over. And so I just kind of went around to the people who didn't have finished jobs and just said, hey, I've, basically been running a lot of the crews and doing most of the work and understand kind of the accounting and everything of this stuff. Why don't you let me finish the jobs? And so that really kind of was kind of the first transformational one. Of course, always had other kind of newspaper routes and, selling pizza at school and everything else. But that was really the transformational one.
That power to say, I'm going to do this as a high schooler, because I would say 9 out of 10 high schoolers would be like, that's a grown-up decision, grown-up job, like, running payroll. I don't know how involved this operation was, but where did that come from at that stage?
Well, I mean, I don't think it was that. I think times are a lot different today than they were, whatever, it's been a long time ago, 30 years ago at this point in time, 20 years ago. Actually almost 30 years ago when kind of that. I do think there's a difference in kind of what life was like back then and kind of the independence, different kind of independence like kids had to make those decisions back then. I'm sure some of it was our, just the way I was raised. I was always, my family was very much a like, we're here to support you, but like you have to make it happen type family. And so I think it was probably just a bunch of stars aligning like that, from kind of having a family who was always supportive of like whatever you wanted to do to be the best at it, to go make it happen, combined with just being in that situation where I already was kind of doing it anyway. It actually wasn't that big of a deviation. It was more just like the two partners split. I didn't really change my job.
Yeah.
Right. It
You just leveled up.
I all of a sudden was doing the same job, but now I was doing it directly instead of a middleman in between. So kind of the opportunity had something to do with it. And then I do think that it was just a little bit different culture. Kind of when I was growing up, it seemed like, and it might be my situation or whatever, but it just seemed like people were closer to kind of the real source when I was, 25, 30 years ago. There were very few people who, I always joke about like, you shouldn't eat meat if you haven't butchered a cow. That was probably, even that situation probably was relatively common when I grew up, right? Very few kids had much separation between that. Now it's like,
You were born in the 1800s, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. 25 years ago doesn't seem like that long ago.
You don't seem like that old of a guy, but yeah.
But 25 years ago is not that long ago. But when you think about it, like culturally, 25 years ago is there's a very distinct. Like when I grew up,
the coddling of the next generation is it's an embarrassment for sure.
I think it was also situational. Right? Like I was born working on farm. I was worked on farms. I had family that had farm, and it was just a different kind of work ethic and expectation.
Where does it go from construction team to ownership and investing?
Yeah, and I got lucky. There was a guy named Jack Chris actually in Elwood, Indiana, where I grew up, and he was a very interesting guy. And he was one of the larger customers of the construction company that I worked for. And he also went to my dad's church. And so I knew him really well. And, I would always, be on his jobs working and see him at church. So I had a lot of conversation. And he'd always be like, well, you just need to start buying your own houses. You can do all this stuff on your own. Which I'm sure had something else, that was probably a part of it as well. Like he was always kind of
huge at that
supportive.
stage.
Yeah. He owned, I don't know how many hundreds of mostly Section 8 and kind of pretty rough and tumble stuff. It was like we were always cleaning up a fire or a meth lab or something as part of our construction job. But, that was kind of encouraging. And so when I was in my first year of architecture school, which would have been maybe a year and a half after I had kind of stepped in and started finishing some of these jobs. I was just like, hey, I've got to get a place to live for next year. I'm going to go find some condemned burnout, whatever, just like Jack did. And that's what we did. I went out and kind of found a, pretty terrible place that needed a lot of work and went and got a 203K FHA first time home buyer loan. Kind of got my uncle was nice enough to cash advance a credit card, and my dad was good enough. Dad and mom were nice enough to co-sign on the loan, since I technically don't even think I was old enough to sign on a loan yet. And I had the construction equipment from the construction job. And it was kind of cool because when I got back from the closing, I pulled up to the house and there was Jack Chris in his truck to congratulate me on buying my first house. So, anyway, I think, there's just lots of lucky instances of the people I ran into. And, I think it was a combination of they saw kind of my work ethic and my kind of desire to do stuff right, combined with kind of their interest in kind of seeing people do and be excited about what they loved, and just kind of got lucky all those stars aligned.
I bet there was some curiosity from you to them in there that, like, if you engage, it sparks their interest.
Yeah.
10x, right?
Right.
Was that the hardest deal you ever worked for?
The first deal I bought?
First purchase.
No, it's easy compared to what we do today.
I was curious. I wanted you to tell me it was harder to buy a first home than artistry.
No, it's too easy. I mean, that's the problem with it, is it's too easy. That's why there's no real value in it, right? You know, you don't really build value buying houses like that because anybody can do it. If anybody can do it, there's rarely value.
Right.
Can you expand upon that?
I mean, it's just supply and demand, right? Yeah. If it's easy to do stuff, prices get driven up. That's why the spreads on single family are so crappy compared to like the delta you can make when you're buying like larger, more complicated things, right? Because you could, I mean, an 18-year-old kid
can do it,
or sub 18-year-old kid can do it with zero experience, zero education, whatever. The barrier to entry is nothing. Right. Anything where there's a low barrier to entry, it's going to be really impossible to actually make any sustainable value unless you can create a misperception and sell it, right? Which is what they do with all the building shows, right? They lie about how much they use to like fix something up and then flip it, and none of the numbers are accurate.
That's why.
And so it's totally it's totally misperception, and they're making their money on the sales of their books or their TV programs or whatever else, not on the actual real estate. But like the reality is like true value is built, doing stuff that's not everybody can do, because as soon as everybody can do it, the prices get driven up, the spreads get tight, et cetera. So yeah, that was hard because of what I knew at the time, but it really wasn't that hard. I controlled most of the elements, I did all the work myself. I worked on my own schedule, had all my own tools.
It was hard but simple.
It was hard, but pretty simple. And it was really only hard because it was the first time, not because it was actually hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just really hopeful that you would tell me it was harder to buy a first home than to take a swing at what's your first big development. What did that feel like going through the process?
I think the first, I don't know, it depends on how you define big. Like kind of the first couple, $1 million deals were just kind of like subdivision that were like pretty, complicated entitlements that we were able to get through and then kind of flip out to builders. First call it $10+ million deal was the Clevelander downtown Indianapolis, which was a very complicated, like public-private partnership with kind of city of Indianapolis that kind of had to transition a whole mayoral change and staff administration change, which made it really hard and kind of really messed up kind of the project. But we were able to salvage it.
Cycle somebody else got.
Yeah, it was like one of those deals where it's like, we won the deal under one administration and we won a really big deal, and then a new administration came in and basically needed to take care of their kind of people, and so they came in and basically recut our deal and cut us out of a bunch of it and gave us a smaller piece of it, which at least they gave us a smaller piece of it instead of cutting us all. But it was just a very complicated political kind of process, but it wasn't like a complicated deal per se.
Yeah. You alluded on the first deal, going back to the single family, you had control. I think you used the word control of the elements.
Yeah.
But in the bigger stuff, you don't have as much control, I assume.
Yeah. I think I had control of the day-to-day, how the construction, because I was doing it. In fact, I shouldn't even say it was easier. It was more like I was the one wiring the house. I was the one plumbing the house. I was the one laying the carpet with, of course, my dad's help and, other people. But I kind of was right there where, I could see it all. As it gets bigger, you're really it's as much about kind of leading an army who's executing the projects instead of, just being able to will it to fruition. So I think that's kind of the hard delta between the two.
As you're leading now more of an army doing these larger, syndicated type deals with, you have a very large organization, I would assume hundreds of people at this point. What are the most important skills that come to the table on a daily basis in leading that army for you?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is to be able to extract yourself from the emotion and to not get caught up in hype, and to just kind of stay steady and calm, to gather the appropriate facts, make the appropriate analysis, and then communicate, kind of the right direction from it. I feel like kind of the biggest problems and the biggest mistakes I make are when I don't take enough time to fully get all the facts and data points in. So I kind of take the headline, or I react on a headline, or I react on one conversation without getting the other side of the story, or whatever. That's always a recipe for disaster. To kind of come out of a meeting and then go straight at an issue. Yeah. Before I've had a chance to okay, that's what these three people said. Kind of what's the other side feel.
And do you feel like the interpersonal side of leading a development company weighs heavier than the technical now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can pay anybody to do the technical part, right?
Right.
And you can pay at a much lower rate somebody to do any piece of the technical than you can the coordination, quarterbacking in our kind of world. So, we have a lot of great architects, and I love architects, but you can buy architecture. You can buy legal. You can buy the different technical components. Sure. It's not cheap or affordable. Sure. But at the same time, compared to what it, kind of finding the unicorn kind of leader position that can bring the lawyer and the architect and the property management and finding people who can really bring the people together, that's where their big value is created, I think. And
replacing yourself. Is that something you've been adept at doing?
Yeah, I think, the one of the top kind of three goals when we started Milhaus, it was, build projects we're proud of, don't work with jerks, and build an organization that we can replace ourselves in. So, I mean, it's been the kind of standing mantra in kind of if you want to build a sustainable enterprise, your number one goal has to be to replace yourself, right? And so anything that isn't the issue, then you haven't built a sustainable organization. And so for us, yeah, that's been our goal from the beginning, is to build something that we can both replace ourselves, but also create, significant opportunity, hopefully, for those that do replace us.
How quick does that ripcord get pulled to replace yourself? What does that phase out look like?
I mean, it depends on which kind of enterprise that we're kind of talking about.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of the systematic of how Tyler and I operate. We're building a team of people, and there's elements of Tyler's position that we've insulated and replaced. But there's still things that Tyler has to show up and do. And they aren't different than what he had to before. They're not the next league up, I guess, is where we're stuck. Is taking that, if you go to a basketball team, I think it's a very easy way to think about it. We're still on the court coaching. We're not quite in the box yet.
Yeah. Well, I guess some of it, and I don't know the situation well enough to speak to your specific issues, but I would say more generically, if we're thinking about a basketball team, a lot of it is how do you build the basketball team from the beginning? Are you building a, LA Lakers or Miami Heat where it's you'll never replace a LeBron James because they only come once in a blue moon, and there's just no way that'll ever be sustained. Once you make that decision to go that rate, you'll never have a sustainable organization because it only works because there's a certain person there. Or are you building a Pacers where You know, you have a whole bunch of people that are, none of them are, you know, at the level of a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan. But they still are winners, and they're incredible. And, you know, most of the time, with a little bit more preparation maybe than the last game of the finals. But if somebody gets hurt, they're still going to be winners going forward. I mean, depending on which type of organization you're. But for me, I've always felt like I would much rather be on a team with a bunch of people that are smarter than me, equal to me, like ultra supportive, that than, you know, trying to be like the person. And I don't really think there's, I mean, if you look at history, there's just not sustainable organizations that have lasted, that have been built around a single person.
Yeah.
It might have gotten started like with a single person, but like hopefully that single person was, you know, understandable enough of the future.
In Good to Great, that's like level 1 leadership, is like the only skill required is charisma. You can just like win people to your side with like good charisma, but like level 2 and then level 3 is like sacrificial leadership. So it's like, it's literally the first level is being the superstar. I'm going to do everything.
Right.
It's like you said, it's unsustainable.
Yep.
You have to develop a lot of, I think, humility and getting out of your own way, which I think you've probably done very well, better than you're even claiming that you've done to get to where you're at, I would assume. I do want to ask, do you think, as we sat in on the presentation you gave at HQ, I keep referencing that, 'cause that's a baseline for my understanding of kind of what you're all about. And I asked a question, which was like, hey, you know, I'm investing in single family homes, doing this, doing that, and, you know, trying to grow that equity snowball. Like maybe I'll buy a single family home, then I'll sell it and buy a quad, then I'll buy the next quad, and then I'll sell those and get to the apartment building. I was like, logically, that makes sense. Essentially, the answer you gave was sell them all tomorrow.
You just ripped
I
them.
walked out crying. No, I'm joking.
I texted him and I said, get wrecked.
But I did talk to Derek Christie on the way out. We both had to cut out early, and he was like, interesting answer, right? And he actually, basically, he added some nuance. He kind of disagreed a little bit with that stance. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, do you think the average person, take Max here, shouldn't go buy, you know, a duplex? Ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who Derek Christie is or what kind of his business model is, so I'm not sure how to.
He's a mortgage lender.
Mortgage
He's
lender.
done single family, 2 apartments.
Yeah.
But all of the above.
Got it. Yeah, mortgage lending business is a lot different. You can make a lot of money in mortgage lending business in a much different way than you can in like actual real estate. But I guess from my perspective, you can apply the corporate ladder to entrepreneurship. And for some reason, people try to compare the corporate ladder of like, hey, I start as an associate and then I go to like they compare they get like all these promotions. I'm kind of like, wait a second, like entrepreneurship is not a corporate organization that just, you know, has a roadmap. You know, entrepreneurship is you're taking a real risk to try to accomplish something significant. And, you know, those two don't align. You know, if you want to climb a ladder like that, go get a job at a place that has like a clear path and whatnot. And then I guess there's a whole lot to this kind of question that's probably way too long to get into for today, but a lot of it's personal. Like, what do you want to be? Right. I mean, if you want to be a lifestyle guy that, you know, is going to make a good living and you can build a little bit of wealth and you're okay with the responsibility of buying single family homes, you can make some money building single family, you know, building whatever single family homes and building a portfolio. But like, I would argue it's almost impossible you'll ever make generational wealth. If you're really trying to be an entrepreneur and really trying to either change an industry, change a platform, or really build, you know, generational or transformational wealth, like you've got to take some risk and do something different that not everybody else can do. And so, is there, if somebody thinks like they really love buying single family houses, they love doing construction every day, they're okay, like,
non-monetary
in a tool belt,
returns,
and they're okay with that. And they
That's
don't
like
really
passion meets purpose meets generational wealth. Right?
Yeah, and they really they want to work till they're 60 and not really have a lot of vacation time, and when they're on vacation be slave to the phone, and like it's really hard. Real estate is an operating business. It is not everybody markets it as a passive income business. Like that's the biggest crock I've ever
yet to figure out how to make it passive.
There is no way to make it. It's not a passive.
Private notes, even that requires a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to get chased down the guy for the
You got to foreclose on a house.
Because most likely you're not going to have a balance sheet.
Is it because of the scale? So like I know operators that are 100 plus doors that I can understand the generational wealth piece. Even if they had all payoff, we're still talking 100 homes, 200K a piece. Like,
yeah, it's not that. I mean, it's good money, but it's not like transformational wealth, right?
But if that was 100, 200 unit apartment buildings.
Well, you got to think about like a single promote on a 200 unit apartment building is, could be $20 million by itself.
Right.
And I would argue, like, again, if you've spent, whatever, 7 to 10 years working in the industry for whether it be a Simon, Milhaus, Buckingham, whatever, like a quality developer, owner, operator, where you really understand the business and have built in institutional relationships, you're probably going to do a 200 unit deal with less effort than buying 1 to 5 houses, or with similar effort, because that project can afford the cost of the professionals and support.
Becoming the type of person that can do that requires a lot of effort and a lot of time and relationship. But then the actual leverage point itself, signing that contract versus those 5 homes is no different. Obviously,
agreed.
Consult your lawyers, whatnot.
Agreed.
But there's a lot under the iceberg.
Is it I think vanity goals that people have that it's like, I want to hit $1 million, I want to hit 10 million? Is that why people get stuck in the single family realm? Like, you liquidated and went straight towards what you believe to be the leverage point in building development projects.
I think I kind of didn't have this experience necessarily, but I think you see like people who go through business school and actually start doing the math and are forced to do the math in their, IU Kelly School of Business or their, Wharton School of Business. They see the math pretty quickly going through that and be like, wow, this makes no freaking sense. And so you don't see those guys going out and doing single family unless they're buying 1,000 units at a time. And they're basically treating it like a multifamily platform, and they're doing it with institutional capital. I think one of the big things you've got to remember when you're trying to like process the analysis of like what you should do. And again, it's very personal. Like there are some people where probably it makes a lot of sense to do for them based on they want full control. They don't work well. They may or may not work well on teams. They may like controlling every facet. They're okay with a limited amount of wealth. They just want to be local. They don't want to travel. There's all valid factors why it might make sense for somebody. I think for me, the question was like, why would I not do it? Or if you have the opportunity to not do that, what would be the reasons too? Like, if you want to be able to like disappear for 6 weeks and not answer your phone periodically, like you're not going to get that in that type of a business model. But you can get it if you build an organization with scale and everything that can fund it.
It's going to take a lot more than 100 homes, though.
Oh, it's going to take thousands. I mean, it's going to take 10,000. I mean, it's going to substantially more. I would say, so anyway, a lot of it's personal and life factors. I would say a lot of people just don't know. I think it's more a lack of like, they just don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of to what I talked about earlier, like the hardest thing of leadership is making good decisions by getting all the data. I don't think most people know all the realities, and I don't think people do enough homework to find out all the realities. Yeah. And I think most people, our media, social media, everything else, like even as somebody in the space who doesn't really use social media much, the inundation of the Grant Cardones and like all these different like rich dad, poor dads and stuff where you're just like, man.
I heard something that he doesn't own anything.
I have no idea. But
it was just
I'm
the
sure he may. I mean,
seminars.
just based on his sales of book volumes, I'm sure he's done just fine. But it's, I would guess it's not from real estate based on like.
Right. And maybe that's the comparison they were making is the seminars and the.
So
that's where all
let
of
me
that
ask
is.
you this. Let's just say someone's like, all right, Todd, I'm bought in. I want to do generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do 200 unit development buildings. I want to kick it into fifth gear. I got these single family homes. What's the first move? Because I think the analysis paralysis of even, and I haven't discerned exactly what I want to do. We got some cool stuff I'm working on with my dad in Danville that we're just passionate about. And I don't think I want to get into multifamily personally. I've gone through that. And I think it's for the right reasons, not just because I'm scared.
Right.
I'm not passionate about multifamily.
Right.
I couldn't give a crap about it, to be honest. No, I think it's cool from a balance sheet perspective. Anyways, I digress. What should that person, is it networking? Is it getting hired by the right development firm? What do they need to do? Where do they start?
Yeah. I mean, I would, my push would be to go work for, whoever is the best in class, the highest quality caliber group you can find that will take you in whatever kind of product type or genre or theme you want. Like if it's industrial, go talk to Jason and Asif at Ambrose, who are like best in the business, or, the Scannell or somebody, and get a job at a shop like that. If it's retail, you've got Kite, you've got a million guys like Gershman Partners and everybody else, just people who really understand and get it and been doing it a long time, that, I would go get a job working for someone like that, like full time, even if it was less than I wanted to make. And I would go, register for, law school if I already had an undergrad, or I'd go to, IU Kelly or real estate or, something at night. And I would do that for 5 to 7 years within the back of my mind, trying to like process and think through how am I going to get to where I want to get, and what's the math take to get me to like my, whether it's 100 million or 500 million or whatever you want that to be in wealth. And what, I think combining that professional expertise with the educational expertise and getting all the facts, bringing it in, some people look at it as they're losing 5 years of their life. I would argue you're actually like probably gaining 20 years of your life, because I think the compound interest of that versus going out and, trying to do it on your own without that, will cost you far more than that kind of whatever 5 to 10 year kind of period of learning. You got to remember, like, not in a bad way, but like scale gives you almost like a tax on every property and every that comes back to you, versus like when you're doing anything on your own, it's only your value per hour.
Yeah, it's a great way to sum that up. The other party that I'm curious on, we help represent a lot of people buying single families who have full-time jobs, very passionate about what they do. Think doctors and engineers. Not going to go run a development firm. Would they be better off just writing notes or private investing, betting on a horse?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make that kind of money like in a public REIT investing as a doctor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of guys,
and I'm thinking
ourselves
like us
included,
going syndication, and instead of me buying another 150K single family in Little Flower in Indianapolis, going and raising 150K and taking a swing at something bigger, or raising way more than that.
Yeah, again, I don't think that helps. Again, personally, it goes back to kind of what you are trying to accomplish as an individual. If you're trying to create generational wealth, if you're like doctor, lawyer, whatever, knocking down, really good income, and you're saying you're going to reallocate plus or minus $100,000 a year or something into like projects, you'd be way better off investing in a, divvying that up amongst a few sophisticated developers and investing in their LP and GP than you're ever going to be buying real estate directly.
Yeah.
I would argue is right 90% of the time, especially if you factor in the time and energy.
You can go on vacation and have
You can go on vacation, or even just the work an extra 4 hours at your hourly rate as a lawyer, and you're going to make more than you would with the kind of principal appreciation stuff of that home.
And to define for our listeners, because I don't think not all of them will understand LP, GP, limited partner versus general partner. And limited partner is just only capital, right? They have a limited downside, limited upside, the necessary equity portion of a deal.
Well, they shouldn't have limited upside. They should only have limited downside. But
fair. I thought they had limited upside sometimes too.
Sometimes maybe, but they went to the wrong people if that's the deal they struck. So
yeah, call Tad. Call Tad's private money people. But where I was going with that is, do you think now in this environment is a good environment for, I have $100K, I'm gonna put it into, BAM Capital, Milhaus, wherever, name your pick. Is now a good opportunity in the market?
This is where you have to do your homework, right? I think doing your homework is what the biggest thing we've lost kind of in culture compared to when I grew up is the lack of people doing homework and kind of the focus on the headline. That's probably the biggest difference, cultural shift. I feel since as I've grown up, is just how little data and we have more data than we've ever had, and people use it less than they used to. And so I would say there are a lot of great operators and there's groups like Milhaus that aren't doing capital calls, and there's a lot of other groups like us. And I think
slap me down the wrist. Go to Milhaus.
Scott and I have talked about it. Where you've got to do your homework, and just because the package looks great and they tell you what the return is doesn't mean you should be questioning the assumptions.
Send me stuff and its sticker, it says 15% IRR. They could pull that out of their butt.
Most of the time they do, right?
Yeah, most of the time, it was a flashy packet.
Yeah, I would say most of the time the packages I see, they know what the targeted yields that people will buy at are, and so they play with all the assumptions to get there, and then nobody really steps in and checks hey, are these rents really legitimate? Is this great rent? That's where people get caught up. That's what was so frustrating, for us at kind of the Milhaus team for the last kind of 7 years, whatever, before kind of it started adjusting in 22 was, we would always we were ultra disciplined on projecting rate increases, and we still missed stuff too, but we were very diligent on that stuff. And it was kind of if it didn't work as a deal, we didn't try to force it to work. And then we'd go get beat out by some of, kind of these groups where it's they were somehow marketing a 22 when we were only marketing an 18 on deals that we had they had overpaid. We had been the bridesmaid on, and we'd always be what the heck? I don't understand how they're getting to a 22. But the investors bought it. They ended up winning the deal. And then now they're doing capital calls, which is, I think, kind of sad and disappointing. But I would say you still have to do your homework, whether you're investing directly in an LP or you're actually self-executing. But if you can do your homework and you can find the groups that aren't just kind of flash in the pan, who've actually lived through a cycle and, are projecting good returns, you're always going to be better off than the time and energy and complexity that you're taking by kind of self-directing. It's the reason I invest, with the high alpha guys in technology. It's why I invest with the OXO guys in the private equity and industrial space. Almost why a lot of those guys invest in me in real estate is because I know they know what they're doing, and they're going to always cut a better deal than, I would going and trying to do those industrials. And I know Scott and Mike and Eric and everybody are going to cut a way better tech deal than I'll ever get doing a tech deal direct. And then on the inverse, I think they know and trust me, and they get me their money on stuff that's real estate related because they know I'm going to drive a better deal and do a better execution on that.
I heard someone say on a podcast recently, once you get to a certain level, you realize everyone at that level was kind of jerking each other off, just sending money around
Yeah.
the circle.
I mean, I would say
Paying the lawyers, they're investing in your deals, and then
Maybe frame it up a little bit differently than that, but
that's what the podcast
yeah.
just quoting.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's true at every level.
Yeah.
I think there's some of that goes around. Yeah. I would say like the diligent groups tend to hang together. And I think they're like, at least for me, we manage a lot of wealth for, some of the wealthiest people in the country, between kind of the hundreds of individual investors we have and then the institutional investors, both foreign and domestic. I would say what you find is like in any level, I grew up ultra poor, like there's always a certain groups, even within those groups, that kind of play loose and play tight. And I would argue that the people I've seen do really well long-term, and again, going back to generational wealth and sustainable businesses, they're the groups that are doing the research. They're doing business with people they know do the research. And it's not just like kind of pass the hat type thing. I would argue, and I mean, you kind of brought it up earlier, there are some groups even here locally that I think very much have done a lot of, kind of pass the hat, kind of perception-based marketing, kind of build stuff up that's costing some people today. But I do think people understand who people are over time. And time vets it all out.
And cycles.
And I think you're seeing some of that today. You're seeing certain groups like us where, we've only really done a single capital offer. It wasn't even a demand for capital. It's more like, hey, we're going to put up a bunch of extra capital to support this deal. And to be fair, we're going to let anybody who was in it already participate with us, but we're willing to put all of it in because we believe kind of in where it's going long term. And that was only on one kind of situation. Whereas I know there are a lot of groups. In fact, I would say most groups right now are actually capital calling. And I would argue a lot of those capital calls are never going to get repaid. I mean, the deals are underwater because they went out and they adjusted the assumptions to get to the 22 or the 18 that we could only get to the 15 to the 18, and they raised the money against that, and the market went against them.
Yeah. I think transparency matters. I can see that that's important to you.
Yes, very much.
Well, we wrap up every show the same way, so let's get to our 3 questions.
First up, what is your favorite date night spot in Indianapolis?
Favorite date night spot? Actually, it's 45 minutes south. My wife and I disappear for a day and get on the boat and putz around and get out of the city. And
Lake Lemon?
Lake Lemon is our spot.
Looks like Tennessee. My dad just bought a home down there and kind of flipped it. And my mom is always like, hey, I thought we were going to sell this, like capture. I thought it was an investment. It was never an investment. We just wanted a place to boat. It's great, though.
That's fair.
Can't blame them.
That's right. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
When's the for sale sign going in the yard?
Yeah.
I'm not getting the listing. I'm like, come on.
What's one habit that changed your life?
A habit that changed my life. Well, I don't know if it's specifically a habit, but I do think just kind of the education quest. Like I've always been learning's like key to success in my view. And I think just the habit that I learned from my dad, who was always a big reader, always hugely supportive of education. I think the knowledge, and not just the knowledge of, but also the relationships are like a game changing, and using education.
Books and relationships, the 2 things that will change your life. Last question for you. What area of your life are you currently focused on growing right now?
I think, for us, we're in like a big transition, kind of as a family and as a business, as we transition more to kind of next generation of leadership. You know, kids going off to college. You know, my partner and I are starting to get to that age where we have to be really conscientious about the sustainability of the firm and kind of where we go. And then we've also made some pretty sizable investments in other operating companies that, you know, are kind of at the point where we really got to figure out what their long-term plan is. So kind of, I mean, like right now it's kind of going from the like single business and raising a family to family leaving the nest, and businesses now starting to need to be able to leave the nest. And so I think there's just a real focus on kind of what's kind of the next kind of iteration of life with those changes going on.
The next chapter.
The next chapter, yes.
Yeah. That's exciting, and probably just like every other chapter, a little intimidating to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not intimidating. It's just kind of, it is what it is. Circle of life.
Fair.
It's just a new adventure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
It's been another episode of the Roots Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe.